working on a project and need to grab some values from an object or an array, what do? You would probably do something like person.name, person.age, person.job, person.address.state. Basically, you would be using the dot notation over and over again. But turns out there is a cleaner, smarter way to extract values in JavaScript, and that is called as destructuring. You will see that this is used a lot, and it is used basically everywhere, especially in React apps. Right from grabbing props. If you have used the useState hook, congrats, you have already used array destructuring without knowing. So in this video, we'll cover both array and object destructuring one step at a time. So let us start with array destructuring first. Right in front of our screens, we have an example with three string values. For those who don't know, array indexes in JavaScript start from 0. Okay, so Walter is at index 0, Jesse is at index 1, and Saul is at index 2. Okay. Yeah, now some people might be, that's the case, isn't that the case in every programming language? Surprisingly, no. Okay, so I thought I should explicitly mention that for freshers. Anyways, if you want to extract these values from this particular array and you want to store them in variables, right? The way you would do that would be this way. You would have const or whatever, even let is fine, even var is fine. Basically, you would have a variable name and then characters.1 arrays. Okay, this is your array name and this is the index, right? So we would get Walter in first. And now let's say I wanted to extract the second one. I would do something like this. Const second is equal to characters of 1. So this would give me Jesse, right? So let me just show that to you as well. Okay, first, second, and my application is already running on live server. So as you can see, we have Walter and Jesse, right? And if of course, if you wanted to extract Saul, you would show that in another variable and you would give that characters with the square brackets and with the value 2. Okay. Now, this is the normal way in which we would extract these values. But what if you wanted to do the same thing using destructuring? So the way you would do that would be you would do const, okay, open and open and closing square brackets. Now square brackets because here we are dealing with arrays. Okay. Now we can give our variable names over here first, second, okay. And now this we want to take from where? Where do we want to take this from, right? We want to take this from the characters array, okay. Now note how I have given just two, okay, while two variable names while there are three, okay. So what will happen in that case is Walter will come and it will get assigned to first. Jesse will come and it will get assigned to second. Saul won't be assigned to anything because I haven't specified a third identifier, third variable name. Okay, I'll show that case to you as well. Okay, so as you can see, I have Walter and Jesse. Okay, now if I add another variable, let's say third, okay, and let me log that as well. Okay, and I would get Walter, Jesse, Saul. Okay, so how does that work? Okay, how does this exactly work? We have this characters array. Okay, so instead of writing multiple lines of code, okay, now here I've written just 2 lines, but if I even wanted Saul to be extracted, I would have 3. And let's say if there were more values, the number of lines would increase drastically based on the number of values that I want to extract, right? So the easiest way to do that is using destructuring, and that is what I've done here. You don't do much, you just add a const, okay, and then you open and close the bracket. Okay, const we would add here also and here also. So I added first, second, and again you can keep these variable names as per whatever you want. Okay, I have taken first, second, third. You can take whatever you want. Okay, so this is how we would get it. So this first would automatically pick the first character. Second would automatically pick the second character or the character at the first index at index 1, and third would automatically pick up the the character at index 2. Okay, so yeah, this was destructuring, array destructuring to be specific. Now, of course, a question can be, what if I don't want to extract Jesse? Okay, I just want to extract Walter and Saul. Okay, how would I do that? Okay, so because over here, right, if you see, I've added 3 variables, right, and this automatically extracts the first. This automatically extracts the third value or the value at the second index. Okay, now how would we do that? Okay, if I wanted to do that, the way we would do that is we would have to remove the second variable. Okay, we would have to remove this. Okay, and I'll remove the second from here also. Okay, so what this would do, right, first would go to this array and it would pick up the element at 0th index. Then it would say, okay, we have to skip this particular element. Okay, so it would just skip the next value, which is the element at the index 1. and third would go and collect the index at the value at index 2, which would be Sol. And yeah, that should work as expected, right? So you get Walter and Sol. What would happen if we had more characters, right? How would we, like, let's say in this particular array, if I wanted to select just Walter, okay, and I wanted to select Mike, okay. First, let's just remove this and just keep this first and third, and let's see what happens over there. We get Walter and Jesse, right? Because it would automatically pick up the first, and the first as in the value at the 0th index, and this would pick up the value at the next index, right? Which is index 1. Okay, but let's say I want to pick up the last one, okay, the last element, okay. How would I get that? Last as in I want to pick up Mike, okay. How would I get that, right? So we saw this when we had Jesse in between. We just added sort of an empty space, right? Separated by commas for Jesse. So yeah, so on and so forth. We would have to do the same for this as well, for the next one as well. So for Saul, we would add another one, right? And for Gus, we would add another one. So as you can see, Jesse would come over here in this space, Saul would come in the next one, and Gus would come over here. Okay, so these three elements would be skipped, and finally Mike would come over here in this last one. Okay, so let's just take a look if that is working as expected. Yep, it is. Okay, so the takeaway over here is the number of elements you want to skip, add commas, and even if you don't add a blank space, it is fine. I've just added it for better readability. But remember, you have to add commas and separate them, just like I've done in the following case. About object destructuring. So right in front of us, we have an example of an object which has the following properties of name, age, then it even has address, and address has certain properties of itself. Okay, it's a state. Okay, so if you wanted to extract these values and you wanted to store them in variables, you would do something like that for name. Note I've kept name val to distinguish it from name. By name val, I mean name value. Okay, you can keep any variable name that you want. If you wanted to extract age, you would do something like just the normal way we do, right? Person dot property, right? Object dot property. Okay, so person dot name will give me Walter White. Person dot age will give me 52. Okay, now if you wanted to extract state, the way we would do is object name dot property name dot the inner property name. So it would be person dot address dot state. So let me just log these values as well and show them to you all. Okay, so all these values should have been extracted. So Walter White, 52, and New Mexico, which is exactly the values that we have extracted. Now, let's say I didn't want to do it in this fashion. I wanted to use destructuring, right? So how would I do that, right? The way we would do that, okay, would be the same way, okay, how we have done for arrays. But the main difference over here will be, instead of using, if you remember, we used square brackets, right? And I had mentioned that since it was array destructuring, hence we used square brackets. But since we are talking about objects, we'll use curly brackets, okay, for object destructuring. Let me just comment this. Okay, now, uh, okay, now watch carefully. I'm keeping this empty, okay, for now. Okay, so if you remember, in array destructuring, we had something similar where we would have const, square bracket, over here we have curly brackets, and inside that there would be something. But towards the right of the equal to sign, we would have the array name. In the case of array destructuring, in object destructuring, we will have the object name. Okay, now I want to extract these properties. Okay, so the way I would do that, okay, let us start with name and age first. Okay, so we would do name and age. Okay, note we can use these constants. We can use our own constants as well. But for now, let's do it in this fashion. Okay, I'll teach you all how to do that as well shortly using aliases. Okay, but for now, let me just show you how to extract values. Okay, in arrays, we could take whatever values we wanted. Okay, here we have to do it in a slightly different way. Okay, so I have taken name, okay, person dot name in the name variable, and person dot age in the age variable. Okay, okay, so I've got these two values. Okay, we wanted to extract this state. How would we do that, right? For these outer properties we saw, right, it was pretty straightforward. Whatever the property name is that you specify, and you'll get that particular value, it will get unpacked. But what to do in the case of inner properties? Okay, so just watch out carefully. Okay, the syntax is a bit simple. Okay, but if you understand. Okay, so if you wanted to extract state, how would you do that, right? We would first need address, correct? So what we do is we type address over here. Okay, now we want to go a level inside it. Okay, so the way we would do that is using colon. Okay, and then we open a pair of curly braces, and inside that we specify that property. Okay, so once again, okay, I want to access state, which is an inner property. Okay, but what is it inside of? It is inside of address. Okay, so I'll pick up address from here, I'll paste it. Now I want to go inside this particular address, so how would I do that? Okay, I would do that by adding a colon. Okay, opening a pair of curly braces, and within that I would specify the property name. Okay, and this would do the job for me. Okay, okay, so as you can see, I've got New Mexico as well. Okay, now over here I mentioned, right, that the variable name that we keep over here, that has to match the property name. Okay, essentially this is the property name only. Okay, but what if I didn't want to use that? Okay, I wanted to use, instead of name, I wanted to use something like name val. How would I do that? Okay, so that we would do by setting an alias. And how do we set an alias? Is you do whatever, if you want name to be changed to name val, okay, what you would do is add a colon and then add name val. Okay, now this now, okay, so one more important thing is, once you do this, right, you have added an alias, right? Going forward, you have to use the alias only. You can't use name over here. Okay, so as you can see, you're getting nothing, right? Because as I mentioned, we have to use whatever you have given as the alias. It's not like, if I've given an alias, I can use both the property name as well as the alias name. No, if you have given an alias, you have to use the alias. Okay, if you're okay with not giving an alias and using the original property name, it's all good. Okay, but if you have given an alias name, you have to use the alias name throughout the code. Okay, now similarly, I've done this for name. You can do that for age as well. Okay, or you know what, let's do it for state, right? So how would we do it for state? How would we set an alias? Okay, the principle remains the same. You just add a colon. Okay, and then you keep whatever variable name you want. Okay, I'm keeping state val. Okay, and let me just change that. Okay, and let me just change this to, okay, so we can see some difference. Okay, so we should get state val as New Hampshire. Okay, so yep, that's it. Before we end this video, let's go through the differences in syntax between array destructuring and object destructuring, right? To clear things up a bit more. So this is how we do array destructuring, and this is how we do object destructuring. On lines 2, we have array destructuring. Line 11, we have object destructuring. Okay, let me just do one thing. Let me just keep them side by side, and I'm sorry, one on top of the other, so it is much more clear. Okay, so on line 10, we have array destructuring, and on line 12, we have object destructuring. Okay, so as we can see, this section, the const part is the same. You can even use let, it's completely fine. Okay, and on the right to the equal to sign, we will always have the array for array destructuring and the object name for object destructuring. Okay, the difference is over here, right? The first visual difference that we can see is in the types of brackets. In array we have square, and in objects we have curly. Okay, and another difference is that in array destructuring, right, we pull out values based on positions. Okay, so the first over here will always get the value at the 0th index. Okay, unless we have added some commas to separate them, like how we saw in one of the edge cases that we covered earlier, right, where we wanted to pick up the first and the last element. So if you want to pick up the first and the last, you will have to separate them out with empty commas in between. Okay, and that would get us the number of spaces in between, which so we could fetch the characters accordingly and show them in the variables, characters or values, whatever your array has. Okay, so that is one main difference. Okay, another difference is here, since in arrays we don't have property names, right, we can use whatever we want from the get-go. There is no concept of alias for this. Okay, we can directly, because you're picking a value and you're directly storing it, right? So this in from the get-go is your alias. Okay, now in object destructuring, we have to compulsorily use the property name. Okay, but yeah, the difference is you don't need to, I'm sorry, you don't need to keep, okay, over here we have name first, so this has to be first. No, that is not the case. That is the difference between array destructuring and object destructuring. In array destructuring, your position matters. Okay, in object destructuring, it does not. Okay, let me quickly show that to you as well. Okay, so you could very well keep age first and name second, and it will still work. Okay, okay, age. And over here we'll keep name val. Okay, so this will also work just as expected. Okay, as we can see, we got 52 and Walter White. Okay, so over here the order is not important. We are fetching things by property names. Okay, but the catch over here is if you want to use a different variable name, you will have to specify it with a alias, which we would do using colon and then whatever you know variable name you want. Else you will have to use whatever is the property name. And yeah, of course, there is the corner case as well that we covered earlier. What if you wanted to extract an inner property, right? We would have to use a syntax like this. Okay, so yeah, that was the main difference between array destructuring and object destructuring. Hope that has cleared things out for y'all. If you found this helpful, please drop a like and check out my channel for more beginner friendly JavaScript tutorials. I have linked them in the cards as well as in the description. Y'all can definitely give it a watch. Once again, thanks for watching and thanks for your support. Have a great day.